welcome back to another video from Off the Post. In today's episode, we'll be ranking the best Premier League strikers this season. And I just want to say, before we get into the video, like always, like, comment and subscribe. It's very much appreciated. And yeah, I'm doing this episode based off my previous one, where it got 85 views. And I just want to say thank you very much for everybody who watched that video and supported, and who's shown all the support recently on my videos, because that's my second most viewed video so far. So yeah, it's very much appreciated, and it definitely doesn't go unnoticed. So yeah, let's just get into it. Right here, we've got 5 tiers on this category. So we've got Unbelievable Jeff, Outstanding, Good Player, Need More, and again, Not For Me Clive, because I love that saying. So the first player on my list I've got here is Darwin Núñez for Liverpool. Now for me, I don't really, rate him that highly in the Premier League. Out of that Liverpool front three, he probably is the most upgradable, just because this season he's got 5 goals and 3 assists, and I don't think that's good enough for any Premier League striker in a 38 game league season. Don't get me wrong, I think he does have moments of brilliance, like he can beat his player, but then it's just the finishing touch in the final thirds. He just doesn't have that, and he's not clinical enough to be a top striker that Liverpool need to go back to back and win the Premier League next season. I feel like they probably could go out and get somebody a little bit better and get an improvement in that area. So for me, he's going in for Not For Me Clive. I just feel like there are better options out there, and if you look at this list, there probably is a good, 19 players that probably are better than him. Well, that's probably a bit harsh. There's probably about like a good 10 to 15 players on the list that are better than Darwin Núñez. He's just too clunky for me, he just doesn't do enough. So, moving on to the second player on this list, it is a Premier League legend, a Leicester City legend, Jamie Vardy. Now for me, at the right age of 37, 38, I'm pretty sure, he's still got bags of talent, and he is a fantastic clinical striker in the Premier League, and he has got a few decent goals this season for Leicester City. So, I'm going to put him in a good player, just because obviously it's been announced that he's leaving Leicester City at the end of the season. So considering that he got relegated, he probably could get a move somewhere to like maybe backup striker at a Fulham or at Wolves, or one of the promoted sides like a Leeds or someone like that. I don't know. I think he still has probably like 1 or 2 more years left in his tank. So Jamie Vardy is a good player for me. Now, moving on to an absolutely amazing player, one of the best strikers in the Premier League this season, Alexander Isak. Now, we might have a first Unbelievable Jeff category striker here for me, because what he has done for Newcastle this season, and what he's done since he's signed for them for a good 2 or 3 seasons now, has been absolutely outstanding. He's gone from strength to strength, and he is one of the best strikers this season. Let me just read out a quick stat for you here. Alexander Isak has scored 23 goals and got 6 assists this season, and he's gone on and helped Newcastle win a Carabao Cup for the first time in their 70 years. So it's absolutely incredible. That's the reason why I'm putting Alexander Isak as my first Unbelievable Jeff striker category, and he's one of the best strikers in the league, probably right up there with Erling Haaland. So for me, we might have to have that debate once it gets to Erling Haaland in a minute. Right, so moving on to our next player, we've got Mbeumo. Now, don't get me wrong, he's a right winger, but he is Brentford's best forward for me, and he does score most of the goals for that Brentford side. He is their star player, of course. When you speak about Mbeumo's stats this season, he has scored 18 goals and got 7 assists in the league. Now, for me, that is absolutely incredible. To do that at a Brentford side who are 9th in the league and potentially hoping to get European competitions, I feel like it's sort of out of the reach this season. I think they've got like 8 points difference to catch up between Aston Villa and like 7th place. So I feel like that's a little bit too ambitious for the 3 remaining games of the season. But Mbeumo's done it week in, week out for that side. He's a star player, and sort of have that Premier League duo with him and Wizza absolutely deadly. And honestly, he's a fantastic player, Mbeumo. So that's why I'm going to put him in the outstanding category. Right, moving on to our next player then. Who's that? I think that's Kai Havertz. Now for me, it's sort of a hard one, because he's not really a striker. He's a false 9 type striker, isn't he, for Arteta's system. And he does score a few goals here and there, but he's not an out-and-out striker, and I feel like that's what Arsenal are missing, isn't it? So he's a good player, Havertz, but I feel like if, Arsenal had somebody else there, a clinical number 9 who can get like 20 plus goals a season, they probably would win the league at this point, because they're challenging each year and they just don't have enough in the final third to bag them the goals, get more 3-pointers on the board, and challenge the likes of Liverpool and Man City in previous seasons. So he is a good player. Havertz, how many goals has he scored? Havertz has scored 9 goals and 3 assists. So, that isn't bad, but it's not double digits where you probably need a striker to get those, double digits over the line and challenge for the league. Right, so moving on to another player here, we've got Cameron Archer for Southampton. It's his first season in the Premier League officially with Southampton, and they've been relegated. So from that point of view, it doesn't look good. He hasn't really scored that many goals in front of goal. He hasn't looked clinical enough to, help keep Southampton in the league. And for that reason, I think I might put him in not for me, Clive. Obviously, he came through the academy of Aston Villa, and there's a lot of potential there and a lot of promise with Cameron Archer. It's just that, it just didn't really work out. I don't think Southampton as a team sort of brought the right players in the right positions, and probably just unfortunate for them, and it just didn't really work out. So, it's not for me, Clive. Now, here we go again for our next player. We've got another Arsenal player in Gabriel Jesus. Now, for me, he is a good player on his day. That first season, he signed for Arsenal for 40 million, I'm pretty sure, for Manchester City. He was looking very good, and there was a lot of talent there. But again, for him, it's just injury problems. That's the downfall of his career so far. And it's very unfortunate to see, because there is a player in there. But again, the same thing with Havertz. He's not a 20-plus goal season striker, and that's what they need. For me, I'd probably put him in the need more category, because we do need more out of him, don't we? Especially for Arsenal fans, don't they? If they want to, compete with the league again and get that Premier League over their belt. Okay, moving on to another player here, we've got Evan Neilson from Bournemouth. Hopefully I've said that right, I'm not too sure. But obviously the Brazilian striker is his first season in the Premier League, obviously replacing Solanke. He went to Tottenham. And he's been very, very impressive under that irregular side. Obviously, it's his first season in the Premier League as well, managing Bournemouth, and he's been so impressive, honestly. Week in, week out, going to Bournemouth, that's going to be a tricky game. And I feel like he's a good player in the Premier League, Evan Neilson. He's scored a lot of goals this season, and he's helped them get a top 10 this season, I'm pretty sure. So, fantastic season for Bournemouth. You can't ask for much more for, the Spanish manager's first season in the Premier League, and there's talks that he might be off to even a bigger team. So that just shows how impressive they've been this season. Okay, again we've got Mohamed Salah, who's obviously a right winger for Liverpool, but he is again the most clinical forward out of that front three, and he scores bags of goals. He's got 27 goals and 18 assists in the Premier League. So he's been by far the best player in this Premier League season, and he's just outstanding. Every single season for the last 8 years, he's put up numbers. I feel like I've said this in the last 2 or 3 videos I've spoken about Liverpool now, but he's just incredible. He does it week in, week out, and you always know with Mohamed Salah on your side, he's going to get you goals and assists, and that's probably one of the main reasons why he's won Liverpool the league this season. So for me, he's right up there with unbelievable Jeff. He has to be. He's the best player in the Premier League this season. So, moving on to our next player now, we've got João Pedro for Brighton, the Brazilian striker, who is a bit of a weird one, because, he sort of started off on the left wing position for Brighton, I'm pretty sure, or Watford back in the day, and he sort of transitioned into a striker, and he does get them good goals, and I feel like he is Brighton's best striker. He's scored some decent goals, and he's obviously played in Europa League this season for Brighton. Didn't really do well in that competition. I'm pretty sure they didn't get that far, but I think he's a good player. I just don't know if he can make the step up to a bigger team, because I feel like there were rumours or links to an Arsenal maybe, or someone like that. But for me, I think he's a good player. Just I don't know if he can take the step up. Maybe let's see if he can do it next year and can bag some more goals again next year to keep the consistency going, because he's got the pace, he's got the strength, he's got the. I wouldn't say he's an out-and-out clinical striker, but he does grab your goals here and there. I just don't know if he can, get you like more than 15 plus goals in a season. I'm not too sure. João Pedro, he has scored 10 goals and got 6 assists this season, so I'm just not sure if he could make the jump up to get 15, 20 goals in a season. But that's just my opinion. So, okay, moving over to another striker here, we've got Aston Villa's own Ollie Watkins. Now, for me, he's a fantastic player. He's one of the best Aston Villa players on this team. Ollie Watkins was always guaranteed to be week in, week out on that team sheet, but this season he's really struggled with the likes of John Duran and Marcus Rashford challenging him for that striker position. And Ollie Watkins has sort of looked out of place at sorts this season because, you know, he's sort of been on the bench and he's not really liked it, but every time he's come on, he's always done something. He's always proved to Unai Emery why he should be the starting Aston Villa striker, Aston Villa number 9 this season. And he's also scored, you know, 15 goals and 7 assists. So even though he's had what I think a poor season for Aston Villa, he's still got good goals, and you know he's sort of absolutely done great in the Champions League, FA Cup, and that's how we got to the semi-finals of the FA Cup and the quarter-finals of the Champions League. So even though he's had a quote-unquote poor year, in my opinion, I feel like Ollie Watkins next season, he will be back and he will thrive and hopefully get another 15 to 20 goals, because for me, he's top 3 Premier League strikers, ability-wise, this season. I don't think he's been anywhere near that, but I'm pretty sure next season he'll be back on it, and for me, that's why I'm going to put him in a outstanding player in the Premier League. So, our next player we're moving on to is Matheus Cunha for Wolves. Now, for me, he's been an outstanding player this season, a shining light in that Wolves side. Now, you know, they didn't get off to the best starts. They were sort of fighting a relegation scrap at the bottom of the table. But when you think about Wolves as a team, they were never going to go down, were they? You know, the jump between 17th and 20th is massive. There's a huge gap between Wolves and like Ipswich, Southampton and Leicester City. From that perspective, getting 15 goals and 6 assists from that Wolves team, who haven't been great this season, is absolutely amazing. But for me with Cunha, I just don't like his attitude. There's been a lot of, you know, problems off the pitch where you might think to yourself, would he handle that in a bigger team? There's been obviously rumours for him joining Manchester United for 60 million. So I don't know if he can, you know, get away with that at Manchester United. I don't know if like Ruben Amorim will like his sort of attitude, but we'll have to wait and see if he does move on in the summer. But he's been an outstanding player this season, and that's why he's going in the outstanding category for me. Right, okay, moving over to another player, Dominic Solanke for Spurs, Tottenham Hotspurs. He is a good player, don't get me wrong, but I was just, you know, expecting him to do a little bit better than he has done this season. Obviously, Spurs have had so many injuries this season, so it is a hard one to sort of, you know, play your best football. So from that perspective, it is a tricky one. But for me, you know, scoring 19 goals last season for Bournemouth, I was expecting him to do the same thing this year. And I feel like, you know, the first half of the season he was struggling a little bit, but second half of the season he sort of found his own in that Tottenham team. So hopefully he can sort of kick on again next year and be more consistent once they got their players back. And hope, you know, they're on course to get a Europa League final and potentially win a Europa League. So if they can end the season with a trophy, it'd be fantastic. And if he could get a winning goal in the semi-finals, in the finals, that would be fantastic for his career. So I do think Dominic Solanke is a good player, but hopefully he can continue to be consistent and make the jump up to be an excellent player with the likes of Ollie Watkins, Cunha, Mbeumo, all these type of players. So moving on to Erling Haaland. Now this guy, you know, when we talk about best players in the league, he's got to be up there with one of the best, isn't he? He's got to be in the same conversation as Mohamed Salah and Alexander Isak, because he's just amazing, isn't he? Now, obviously, we spoke about before about how, like, there's a whole Isak versus Haaland debate and how robotic in that sort of playing style, but he just bags your goals, doesn't he? He gets goals galore, and for that sort of sense, you know, he is an unbelievable striker player, because he's got 21 goals and 3 assists this season, I'm pretty sure. So from that perspective, you know, to get more goals than Alexander Isak, and he's been out injured for a lot of the season, Haaland has. So from that perspective, he is pretty good. And when you've got him in your team, you're always going to be challenging for the league, even though, you know, they're going to finish 3rd or 4th position, Manchester City, this season. So even though they're challenging 3rd and 4th, I feel like next season, once they, you know, get their players back fit and, you know, sort of rebuild in certain areas, I think they're going to be fighting fit once again for another Premier League challenge next year. Right, so we move on to another player here. We've got Liam Delap for Ipswich Town. Now for me, again, he's been one of their star players this season, a real shining light in the Premier League. When you think about Premier League forwards, he's sort of an old school Premier League forward. He can, hold the ball up, back to play, he can run in behind. He's clinical in front of goal. He scored 12 goals and got 2 assists in the league this season as well. So Liam Delap, from that point of view, he couldn't do enough to keep Ipswich in the Premier League, unfortunately enough for him. But I feel like, there's a whole lot of talk around him having a £30 million release clause in his contract. So even if, he does go down with Ipswich Town, I feel like he'll be straight back up in the Premier League because he's been rumoured to the likes of, Newcastle, Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, all these big teams. And for me, I just don't know if he can do the jump to, one of those big six sides. I feel like the perfect club for him would be Newcastle. Let's say, if Alexander Isak does leave in the summer, then the perfect replacement would be Liam Delap for me, because I feel like he would suit the Eddie Howe system perfectly. He's a young, hungry striker who's looking to improve, and I feel like, a manager of Eddie Howe's capabilities would improve him massively and make him probably a 15+ goal season striker. So for me, Liam Delap is going into an outstanding player, outstanding category. Another player for me who's been a little bit poor for Manchester United, and that is Højlund, because Rasmus Højlund, he is a good player. He's got some good attributes on him, but it doesn't suit. It didn't suit Erik ten Hag's system. He didn't suit Ruben Amorim's system either, and he's just not clinical enough in front of goal, is he? He's got very good movement. I've noticed that the runs he makes are fantastic, and the 1 or 2 times where a Manchester United player picks him out, he does look decent, but he's not clinical in front of goal. He's not ruthless enough in front of goal, and when Manchester United, a club of their stature, need a 20+ goal season striker, he's not him yet at the moment. I feel like, obviously he's still young, only 21 years old, so there's a lot of room for development for Rasmus Højlund, but for me, I feel like he needs to do more. But I feel like that's where Manchester United, they need to look at a 30-year-old striker. They need to look for an experienced striker who Rasmus Højlund can sort of learn from in that sort of sense. Now, when we go from one Manchester United player to another, we're talking about Marcus Rashford, obviously on loan to Aston Villa at the moment. And for me, there's a lot of hype around him joining Aston Villa on loan in January, and he's an amazing player, don't get me wrong. I don't know if he's done enough to warrant that £40 million move to Aston Villa. Obviously, he's got an option to buy in there. I don't know if he's done enough, and I don't know if Emery would want to pay that or if there's better value for money out there. I feel like he's a good player in the Premier League, and obviously he didn't do enough for Manchester United at times, and I feel like to get away from that environment of Manchester United was probably the best move for him. And now there's talks about him, wanting to move to Barcelona or something like that. So it is, very ambitious for Marcus Rashford. Again, I think he's got like 4 goals and 2 assists for Aston Villa, I'm pretty sure. So he has looked bright in periods of the games. Obviously he scored 2 goals against Preston in the FA Cup. He's done well in a few of the Champions League games. But for me, I feel like, Unai Emery made a few mistakes where he picked Marcus Rashford over Ollie Watkins, and I couldn't accept that because, picking Rashford over Watkins in a Champions League semi-final against PSG, I feel like that was the wrong call. But we'll never know now, will we? We'll have to wait and see. But Marcus Rashford is a good player, and I feel like he'll be back to his best next season wherever he goes, and I hope he is, to be honest with you, because he definitely does deserve a good move to somewhere. But I feel like it's sort of getting that balance right for Marcus Rashford. Where will he go next season? That is the key decision he has to try and figure out, because he needs to find the right club that will suit him down to the ground and can give him that consistent run of form, and won't sort of get on his back if he's playing badly enough, with the fans and whatnot, and the manager, and sort of calling them out. And it is all a bit weird at Manchester United. So getting out of that environment, moving on. Obviously he's a boyhood player, so from that perspective, moving on might be a little bit bad or might hurt a little bit, but it's the right thing to do for his football career. So moving over to another player here, we've got Raul Jimenez from Fulham. Now, for me, Raul Jimenez probably had his best spell in the Premier League under Wolves, but I feel like he had a massive injury, didn't he? He had a massive head injury, and he hasn't been the same player since. But Then again, saying that, Fulham have been fantastic this season. They've scored some decent goals. They're really high in the league, aren't they? They're definitely top 10 in the league. So for me, again, I don't know. Do I put him good player? Do I put him need more? I feel like I want to put him need more because I know there's definitely bags of potential in there still for Raul Jimenez. And he has scored a few goals this season, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like, he could be probably more clinical in front of goal. But again, that's just my opinion, I'm not too sure. Now, moving on to our next player, we've got Mateta for Crystal Palace. Now, this guy, he's an absolute beast in front of goal, isn't he? He's improved season upon season, and he's been one of the most outstanding Premier League strikers for the last 2 or 3 years. He's got the most goals in his career this season, and let me just give you a quick little stat on those goals. Mateta has scored 14 goals and 2 assists in the Premier League this season, and he's gone nuts. I think he's one of the most reasons why Crystal Palace are in the final of the FA Cup and have the potential to even win it. Obviously, they're playing Manchester City, so it's going to be a massive game for them, but I feel like they could definitely do something decent against them. So for me, Mateta is going to be, is it outstanding or unbelievable, Jeff? I don't know. He's only scored 14 goals, so I feel like it has to be outstanding. Yeah, I think it does, because let's say if he got 15, I think if he got 15 goals plus, or if he got if you won Crystal Palace the FA Cup, for example, he would be unbelievable, Jeff. But for now, I feel like it has to be outstanding. But I can't praise Mateta enough. He's one of the best, in terms of hold up play, strength, scoring goals, bringing players into the game and whatnot. He's one of the best in the league at the moment for doing that. So moving over now to another striker, we've got Nicholas Fulcrum for West Ham. Now for me, I don't know about him. It's a really tricky one. Obviously, it's his first season in the Premier League. I don't think he's done enough. So, he's had a few injury problems at the start of the season, I'm pretty sure. He's only started 14 games and got 3 goals and 1 assist or something. So, obviously he came from Borussia Dortmund, so he had a high reputation, but I don't think he's done enough for me, and I don't think he's my type of player. I don't think he's got the right attributes in that sort of sense. So he's going not for me, Clive. So now we're moving over to Nicholas Jackson for Chelsea. Now, what can I say about this guy? He's very similar to Darwin Núñez in the sense, he does everything right until the final third. He's very clunky in that sort of sense. He scored 10 goals and got 5 assists in the Premier League, which isn't bad at all. Don't get me wrong, it isn't bad. It's double digits at the end of the day. But I feel like if Chelsea, similar to Manchester United, had another striker in there with a bit more experience who Nicholas Jackson could sort of learn from, if he could be the second striker in that sort of sense in that Chelsea side, nobody would have a problem with it. But just because he came in for so much money, the Chelsea fans have high expectations, and from that point of view, I don't think it's worked out as a signing. And obviously, Nicholas Jackson, I feel like he does need to do more. I feel like there is a player in there similar to Darwin Núñez and Rasmus Højlund. There is a player in there, but I just feel like give it a few more seasons. Hopefully, he might, score, 15 plus 20 goals. I don't know if I see that though. It's a bit of a tricky one with Nicholas Jackson. I feel like next season is a big season for him, and if he doesn't get it right, he could be off. It might be a little bit harsh saying that, but he could be off, so that's why he's going into the need more category. Right, so we've only got a few more players left on the list here. I think we've got 5 on the list now, so I'll try and smash through these quick as I can, because this is be another long video for you. So, next player we've got is the New Zealand Chris Wood, okay, for Nottingham Forest. Now, when we think about Nottingham Forest, I think Chris Wood is one of the main reasons why they're challenging for Champions League positions, okay, because this guy has got 19 goals and 3 assists in the Premier League this season. He's absolutely run riot on the whole league, and for me, he's a good Premier League striker, but don't get me wrong, he's a good Premier League striker, but he's been unbelievable this season, absolutely outstanding. When I think about Chris Wood, some of the goals he scores, Nottingham Forest side, it's very similar to Wolves a few years ago. They run down the byline, cross it into the box, and Chris Wood just either, volleys it or heads it into the box and he scores some goals. It's easy as you like, but Nuno Santos has worked so well with that Nottingham Forest side, and it just works for him, and it's been amazing. So that's why I feel like Chris Wood has to go. Unbelievable, Jeff. I was thinking maybe outstanding, but when you think about Nottingham Forest this season, them changing for Champions League football, it's brilliant. I don't know if they'll do it because, you know, they're 3 points off at the moment when I'm currently recording this video. So they've sort of let themselves down in recent weeks. Obviously, recently drawing Crystal Palace 1-1. So they've let themselves down, and I don't know if they'll actually get Champions League football now, but even still, brilliant from them. Brilliant football. Brilliant team this season. So we're moving on to another Manchester United player on this list. It's Joshua Zirkzee. I think, you know, for me, when I watch him play, again, I don't think he's a striker. Like, there's been a lot of chat around him being a false 9, a 9.5, whatever that means. But you know, he's a good link-up player, isn't he? He's a good, you know, sort of attacking midfielder. If he played as attacking midfielder next to Bruno Fernandes, I could sort of see it. But again, Højlund doesn't get the goals for him, so they're sort of stuck in that similar situation. Both of them don't score enough goals for Manchester United. And for me, I think there is I feel like there's a player in there. I don't know if he's a 20 plus season goal striker, but I feel like he could get a good 10 to 5 plus goals a season, and that's half decent for Manchester United at the moment in their current position, because, you know, sitting 15th in the Premier League is not good enough, and for that reason why I'm going to put in need more. Okay, we've got 3 players left on this list, and the first player I'm going to choose from is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Okay, for me, you know, a few seasons ago under Carlo Ancelotti, he was looking incredible. He was having a fantastic season, but ever since, you know, the likes of what's it called, Sean Dyche and David Moyes has come in, he hasn't been that great. Obviously, he's had a few injury worries as well, so it's sort of hard to judge a player when they're very like injury prone. It's not great to judge a player when they're out for a lot of the season. But, you know, when he is fit, he hasn't done that much for Everton so far, and they've been fighting a relegation scrap for the last 2 seasons. So for me, I just don't know if he's going to get back to his best. I think there are rumours now that David Moyes want to sort of sign him again for a new contract. So I'm not too sure about that. I don't know if he can. I don't know if he can get back to his best. What I'm trying to say for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, there is a player in there, but I don't know if he needs a fresh start at a different team. I'm not too sure. So for me, I'm going to put him in not for me, Clive. He was a fantastic player a few seasons ago, but I just don't know if he can get back to his best now. Okay, moving over now, we've got Wissa for Brentford. Now this guy, right, he's got a deadly duo with Edinburgh, hasn't he? He's fantastic. Wissa has scored 18 goals and got 7 assists in the Premier League, and that's absolutely incredible. You know, the 28-year-old striker, he's brilliant. He's had a great year for you know, Brentford, and obviously there was a lot of talk around Ivan Toney leaving and would Brentford need a replacement. Wissa has proved to Brentford and Thomas Frank that they don't need a replacement. He is the guy to score them the goals in that front 3 for Brentford, and that's why they're going to finish 8th or 9th in the Premier League. So I feel like he's had an outstanding season for that Brentford side. Now, moving over to the last player on my list. Hopefully I haven't missed anybody out, but I'm not too sure. Maybe let me know in the comments if I've missed anybody out on this list. Who do you want me to put in there? I'm not too sure. I don't feel like I've missed anyone out. So yeah, we've got Marmoush here for Manchester City. Obviously, you know, he's a very versatile player. He can play in a lot of different positions. He did play sort of as a second striker for Frankfurt in the Bundesliga. So, you know, he's sort of the replacement for Julian Alvarez in that sort of sense. But I don't know, he sort of played on the left wing a lot for Manchester City this season, and he's come in and he's looked as a breath of fresh air in that Manchester City side, because they were lacking players out wide to sort of, you know, grabbing the goals, grabbing the assists. They've got a lot of potential in Jeremy Doku and Silvinho and all those type of players, but they were sort of just out of form this season at the moment. So Marmoush is a great player. I feel like I will probably see him probably more on the bench next season for Manchester City, sort of coming on and replacing Haaland. So that's why I've sort of put him in that sort of striker category. I feel like he's a good player, don't get me wrong, and that's why I want to put him in a good player category, because, you know, he's going to grab him goals, he's going to come off the bench and be an outlet for Manchester City. I feel like he can get, you know, 10 to 15 goals in a Premier League season. He's got bags of ability, and he will definitely do that. When we think about pace, dribbling, taking on players, one-on-ones, scoring goals, he can do it all. but I just don't know if he'll feature enough in that Manchester City side. I'm not too sure. But yeah, so this is my tier list for the best Premier League strikers in the Premier League. So yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? We're going to end the video with some questions, okay? Who's the best Premier League striker this season? Is it Isak? Is it Haaland? Is it Chris Wood? When we think about Brentford, who's had a better season, Embremo or Wizza? Are they the best Premier League duo in the Premier League at the moment? I'm saying Premier League a lot at the moment. Yeah. Do we think Mateta and Crystal Palace will win the FA Cup against Manchester City? I'm not too sure. Has Ollie Watkins had a poor season? You know, fighting against the likes of, you know, John Durant and Marcus Rashford, it's been a little bit difficult for him. But will Cooney be off next season? Will he join one of the big six teams? I'm not too sure. You know, Liam Delap, is he off in the summer? Who's he going to join? Will he join an Arsenal, a Newcastle, a Chelsea, someone like that? And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate all the support on the videos. Obviously, I did mention that the first time I tier this video I did got on 85 views, so that is absolutely incredible. I can't believe that. I can't thank you guys enough. So as always, like, comment, subscribe. I very much appreciate it, and peace out.